Wednesday for the Redneck Garage. Well, probably about an hour ago, my friend Melissa called about her Jeep. She's got a TJ, and last week she was having problems with it. It died on her. She said the radio was flashing, everything was going on and off. And her husband Brent came and looked at it, and he called me on the phone. I was talking to him about it. So he took the battery out and took it down to the Brain Trusted AutoZone, and they said, "Yeah, we touched it and the battery's bad." So they gave him a new battery. He put it in, the Jeep started up, she drove it for a couple days, and then the same thing happened. Now, I was a little bit concerned on the front end because I thought maybe there's going to be some problems with it after you put the battery in, but they didn't have a chance to test anything or take it back down to AutoZone or bring it here. It was late at night. Everything seemed fine. Started right up, lights, everything. But then I got a phone call. So here's the Jeep in the middle of the road. It's the battery. Look at all this traffic, holy moly. So I'm going to charge this thing up and we're going to get back to the Redneck Garage. So obviously it wasn't the battery. Maybe the alternator fried the battery, you know, and that's very possible. So we're going to go through replacement of a Jeep alternator. They're all pretty similar as far as that goes on the TJs. And we're going to do a little bit of testing to make sure that's exactly what it is. So let's get started. So I charged it up a little bit on the side of the road. You can see that they're down probably 12 volts. I don't even know it's got enough juice to start, but we can try it. You can see that the gauge isn't coming up at all. If I turn on the lights, you can see it's really dropping down. If I turn on the air conditioner, so obviously we're not getting any charging whatsoever. You can see the alternator underneath there, and I think it may be the same as my Jeep, I don't know. But it's supposed to rain tomorrow, so I may go ahead and just try to get this thing off of there before the rain hits, because I told her I'd probably have it ready tomorrow. I did go through and make sure it wasn't a fuse, because sometimes the fuse can go out, even a maxi fuse. All the fuses are good, so that only leads us to believe that the alternator is indeed bad and it needs replacement. On the older TJs, your adjustment is on this pulley. You loosen this bolt up, and your adjustment bolt is right here. So once you loosen up that pulley front, you can start running this bolt out, and it'll allow that pulley to come up, and the belt will be loose, and you can take it off. You want to loosen this top bolt up, which is your tensioner, and it's a 15 millimeter. Alright, so I got the belt off. Awesome! You can see your two bolts. There's one here, one underneath right there. So I'm going to see if I can get those loosened up. Okay, so at this point, I want to go ahead and unhook the battery over here, just for the fact that I'm going to be dealing with the wiring and I don't want to short anything out. So I'll go ahead and hook the battery real quick, just for grins and giggles, make it safe. Alright, so I got the bolts out, that's good. We can tell it's a nip and denso, and you got to take this bolt off and those two, and then it should be ready to have the wire off of it. Okay, so you can see that the wiring harness is loose from the alternator. Now we got to get it out of there, and that's going to be fun. Let me try to wiggle and jiggle and see what the best way to get it out of there is. With the airbox out of the way, it gives me enough room to pull the alternator out. And there she is. Awesome. Alright, I checked all the auto parts stores in the area, and the only one that hadn't stocked was Advanced Auto. And if you sign up with them, a lot of times you get 10% off. So I did get 10% off of it by ordering it online rather than going to the store. So go figure that. So the alternator itself cost me 112 bucks. So I'm going to pick it up, and hopefully I can get that thing back on tonight. It's going pretty well. Alright, I will have to say they work pretty dang well. I brought in the slip from the internet. I got 10% off of it. It's already paid for. I just picked it up. And I was pretty impressed with that. So, advanced, way to go. Alright, I got the new alternator. It's a remanufactured one, but that's all that was in stock. So this is what we're putting on it. And I would have swapped it with the one that's on my truck, but it's actually different. The 2000 and the 98s are different alternators, believe it or not. So, looks good. Approved! It's an approved one, so that's good. We'll get her slid on down there and then we'll connect her wires up. I love these Milwaukee tools. It kind of frees you up from having to bring an airline out here and all that garbage. Works great. And you can see we got the new alternator set in there. I just got to tighten these two bolts down and get the belt back on, tighten it up, put my airbox back on, we're finished. Alright, so we got the belt back on, looks good. Go ahead and tighten her down, cinch up the bolt on the front of that pulley, put our battery terminal back on, we should be able to start it up. Oh yeah! See, we're up at about 14 volts, looks good. Okay, so the Jeep's all fixed, got a new alternator on it, and we learned a couple lessons. First of all, is Advanced Auto Parts is pretty good. They were the only ones that had the alternator in stock, and I got a discount on mine, so I was pretty happy with that. Secondly, if you're relying on somebody at a parts store, especially an Autozone, to diagnose what's wrong with your vehicle, you are going to be in big trouble. Brent took the battery in, and of course it was completely dead because the alternator was bad. They put a new battery in it because AutoZone tested it and said, the battery's dead, it's bad, it's a bad battery. Do I think the battery's bad? Absolutely not. I think it was just discharged. They hooked it up to their machine, and their little Wango Tango machine came up and said bad battery for whatever reason. But the truth of the matter was there was nothing wrong with the battery. Now, because the weather is so nice out here, you haven't had to use your heating and air, and she drove mostly during the day. She probably drove it for a couple days after they put the battery in without the alternator working because there wasn't much drain on the truck at all. Tonight she turned on her air conditioner and the lights coming home. It was a little bit later, I guess, when she was coming home, and she said it started bucking and jumping and started missing, and I'm like, that's because the battery was dying and the alternator wasn't charging. So basically, when you go back to the beginning of it, diagnosing something yourself rather than relying on some goofus at AutoZone, you're going to be way better off. Hopefully by watching this you'll see that it's not that hard to put on an alternator. Even with hand tools, it just takes a little bit longer than the power tools, and you could save a ton of money. It's nice to work on a Jeep that runs. Anyway, this weekend I'm going to be hammering away on my Jeep. I'm David from the Redneck Garage. Keep turning wrenches.